been in Boston for 4 years now, and I'm getting ready to move back home. But before I left, I wanted to do something meaningful and dig deep into what brought me here in the first place, which was the military. Michael Vazquez, Director of Community Affairs for Governor Charlie Baker and Suffolk alum, was kind enough to invite me to the State House and talk about the history of the military in Boston and his transition into Suffolk University.
Where did most of the history of the military in Boston begin?
I mean, yeah, you'd have to go back all the way to revolutionary times. I think, we were like the breadbasket of liberty. Boston really did kick off the urgency for freedom and urgency for liberty, and it all started right down the street. It just took a couple of patriots dressed up in Native American garments, and when they said enough was enough, they decided to just embark on a ship, take all the tea that was in their crates, and just dump it overboard as like a sign of defiance. I see Massachusetts, Boston specifically, really important because as soon as the Emancipation Proclamation was authorized, at the time, Governor Andrews wanted to establish a all African American regiment, enlisted African American regiment, commanded by white officers at the time, but with the help of the abolitionists at the time and the president, the governor established the 54th Massachusetts Regiment that fought in the Civil War and has built this legacy of blacks in this country fighting for their freedom. And to this day, I feel like they're still fighting for that same justice.
What I liked about Boston when I first got here, it felt very deeply rooted, I guess. And not to say like New York or Chicago or other East Coast cities weren't deeply rooted, but I felt that this was a place that was the stomping grounds of America, really.
Right. If you just take a look at the Declaration of Independence, you take a look at some of the names of some of the signatures, a good chunk of them came from Boston.
When you came to Suffolk, what was that transition like for you? Because you said you just did your master's here.
Yeah, so as soon as I graduated undergrad, I decided to make a move to Boston. I knew I wanted to do public service. So while I just started off in the governor's office, I decided to further pursue education. I was looking at Northeastern, I was looking at UMass Boston, but there's a saying in the State House that if you throw a rock at the State House, it's bound to land on a Suffolk grad. After I heard that, I immediately checked out Suffolk, and not only was the program appealing, the faculty there is amazing, the classes I took were amazing. I learned way more than I did in undergrad. How did you find the transition, specifically coming from a military family background and sort of leaving that behind and coming, on your own to experience Suffolk?
So that transition was interesting because I remember not being military, getting used to the military life and then stepping away from it. So I think a lot of my transition coming out of the military life and into my own, I couldn't not carry on the tendencies of that, military life mentality. I understood the whole nuance to it where I'm not gonna waste my time here. I'm gonna work hard, I'm gonna sacrifice a lot of weekends. And I think that's the biggest learning lesson for me growing up around that is just understanding what sacrifice really means. And after I came to Boston, rather than trying to think about, what sacrifice meant for my family and what it did, I started thinking about what sacrifices I could make and what they would mean to me.
And through that, and because of that, you were able to spend 4 years here and meet just some incredible people that have further sort of developed you as a human. And those are the relationships that you built at Suffolk.
I wanted to go deeper with this, so we met up with another Suffolk alumni, Thomas Berry. Thomas was a C-130 plane captain in the United States Marine Corps, so we knew he would have a more personal experience with it all.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about your military career, how you started?
I joined the Marine Corps in 2012 when I first enlisted in the delayed entry program. I used to go to Roger Williams University, but that didn't work out too well. It wasn't really for me yet. I think I had some maturing to do. And, you know, I think subconsciously I knew that. So joining the military for me was kind of a way of like growing up, kind of trying to realize my true potential. And I enlisted right on Boylston Street, actually, right next to Suffolk.
Did you have school in the back of your mind as soon as you wrapped up your military service?
Yeah, I didn't want to go and do another enlistment. I was done. They call them like I was a one and done. And so, you know, I didn't want to give up. I kind of saw it as like another challenge, right? Like everything in the Marine Corps, from pull-ups to running, you know, to learning about the plane. I was like, you know, if I could do this, I could probably do college.
What was it about Suffolk, or how did you get picked at Suffolk?
Well, I just kind of like saw that I could probably get accepted. I applied to UMass Boston, I didn't get in. I applied to Northeastern and I got in. I got accepted to Suffolk, and they said, and I said, do I need to take out any loans? They said no, and just ended up there. And
where do I sign up?
I wish it was a more romantic story, but really all it was just me getting accepted and knowing that you know, they would use the Yellow Ribbon program alongside my GI Bill, and they paid for everything. I never paid a dime out of pocket for anything.
How was the transition between returning from the military lifestyle and to the classroom setting?
For me, it wasn't too bad because a lot of my military career was spent in the classroom, you know, learning about the plane, its many functions.
Did you have that sort of like nervy gut feeling coming back to school, like, you know, what's next?
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, I was like nervous. I was like, you know, what if I still suck at this? Like, what if, you know, that stuff doesn't pull through? What if all these like really motivational life lessons that I learned are just that? They're just motivation, right? And then you get there and you flunk. Thank God they weren't. But yeah, I think whether you're a 21-year-old kid coming into Boston for the first time, you know, nervous to cross the street, or you're some, you know, grizzly old, you know, 20-something getting out of the military. You know, you might not show it as much, but there's definitely that level of apprehension and in a way, fear about your own potential, right? Like you're afraid of, what if I don't do good? And then you start doing good, and you go, what if I do good? When did the Fallen Heroes Memorial get erected? What was the process like?
Yeah, the whole idea came about in 2010, where a group of local veterans, law enforcement, municipal leaders, state leaders all came together and had a plan to commemorate the Massachusetts Fallen Heroes. And it took 6 years to, you know, fundraise. The end result really did it justice. It's a great reminder for folks that just spend time here in the seaport that, you know, freedom isn't free. It all comes at a price.
My name is Marley Teague. I'm a Suffolk alumni from the Sawyer Business School class of 2019. To know that there was some level of sacrifice made by a lot of people long before I was born, the amount that those people have given would set something like the GI Bill into motion and ultimately determine my fate as a young adult, it really humbles me. And it's given me a lot of perspective to work extremely hard at Suffolk, show my professors what I was made of. And that's kind of the motto at Suffolk, right? It's to make your way. So that is my take on why Suffolk is so important to me and how my experience here is tied to the military specifically. Biggest piece of advice, I know you guys are thinking it, take any opportunity that comes your way. It doesn't matter how big or small it is, the point is you're meeting people. And at a school like Suffolk that's really small, where you can show a lot of people what you're made of, that's gonna carry really far in a city like Boston. And have fun, really. It's a great place. And if you're thinking about coming to Suffolk for the purpose of transferring to a different college, reconsider that. Please reconsider that.